the 17th of December 2010. I was in Australia watching the cricket, one of my colleagues attended. But apparently it was a very lively evening. Much discussion, much debate about the prospects of securing just the podium development. In the end, the committee resolved to defer it while further information was awaited, but a significant amount of the discussion related to the appropriateness of advancing that podium application in isolation. March 2011, we're starting to get comments come through from august bodies such as the Commission for Architecture and Built Environment in relation to the first main application that was brought forward. CABE had the following to say. In the interest of fairness, I would point out that they didn't have too much of a concern about the scale of the development, but CABE do like their grand architectural statements. In endorsing the track position, they support the principle of the redevelopment of Twickenham Station. I think everybody here does. They do, however, have concerns relating to aspects of the quality of the architecture. Further work is required to achieve a scheme of sufficient design quality appropriate to this prominent location. And overall, CABE felt that they couldn't support the scheme. Just as an aside, what I've brought up there is actually CABE comments on another southern scheme. This is a scheme for the redevelopment next to Walthamstow Station. Now, a word of caution, this scheme was actually approved in the end, but again, some of these comments may sound familiar. We regret to say we do not think that this will be achieved by the current application scheme. That's in terms of the successful redevelopment of the station. Serious concerns about the overall massing of the scheme and its low architectural quality. We think the height of the development should be significantly reduced to achieve a scale more sympathetic to its context. It's potential that the same have a bit of previous in terms of their approach to redevelopment of station sites, but I'll leave it at that. Another familiar face. The scale of the scheme, being more than 150 units and being more than 30 metres high, was referred to the government, the GLA for comment. GLA officers' report said that if some issues could be addressed, then officers may be prepared to support a redevelopment in the form that was being brought forward. In the Mayor's own response, he was very clear that he didn't feel that the scale, height and bulk of the station scheme as brought forward at that time were in any way appropriate. And that was expressed in the covering letter with the application. Next one's important, again, policy point at hand, but in March 2011 the Council issued a draft development planning document, and this sets out the principles and the detail upon which the core strategy provides the overarching policy context. So we're starting to get into the policy detail again here, against which any planning application should be determined. And this draft that was issued in March 2011 identified the station area there, but also included very significant controls in terms of the development that the Council would find acceptable in policy terms. It enshrined into specific policy, rather than supplementary policy, the heights that are acceptable on the station as outlined in the supplementary planning document. So the 4 to 5 stories adjacent to Mary's Terrace, the 2 to 3 stories on the other side of the station adjacent to Cole Park Road. And there's a key sentence in here that actually says, taller buildings or features will only be acceptable subject to a full design justification based on a comprehensive townscape appraisal and there being significant local community support. It's quite unusual to find that in a planning policy, but it's certainly a good thing, because obviously the locals have made their feelings very well known in terms of the scheme that's in front of them at the moment. May 2011. May 2011, in light of some of the comments that were submitted, Solent took it upon themselves to submit a revised application. 165 units became 115. Another haircut for the scheme, probably more of a trim this time. Again, this is the same image from Cheltenham Avenue, Regal House, Travelodge extension, and the scheme. Probably doesn't look too different to the first glance. Again, from the pedestrian bridge, this is the revised scheme that you're looking at. Just in terms of comparisons, in the particular views that we've looked at there, the changes really are quite minimal in terms of the height and in terms of the bulk. And although the number of units has changed, we can make a couple of comments on that later. In that particular view, it's approximately a story or so different across the site. A little bit of a reduction in the amount of floor space in the scheme, probably to the tune of something like 18%. The height of the scheme when it was first submitted, the first application, was just over 30 metres. It was 30.7 metres from Mary's Terrace, contained 165 units, and probably about just under 12,000 square metres of floor space. It also contained 28 units of affordable housing. Now, the revised scheme when it was submitted, 27.9 metres, 115 units, 9,694 square metres of affordable housing. Now, if you compare the two of those, the reduction in height is 2.8 metres. Reduction in the number of flats is quite significant, it's 50. But the reduction in the amount of floor space at 2,140 square metres is 18%. But of that, approximately 1,630 square metres is the removal of the affordable housing that was contained within the scheme. So in terms of a reduction in what might be considered saleable or lettable floor space, you're looking at something in the region of just over 500 square metres. Now, a cynical person might say that if the Mayor of London had made some comments, some adverse comments in respect of your scheme, and at 30 metres plus tall and at 150 units plus in terms of numbers, that scheme would be referred to the Mayor, and at 27.9 units, 0.9 metres high and 115 units, it wouldn't be. That might be one way to go in terms of revising your application, but that's what a cynical person would say. Next stop, podium application was withdrawn, July 2011, a great day. September 2011, we're coming to the end of it now. This is quite important again. The DPD document that I showed you earlier is subject to independent scrutiny. An inspector appointed in Bristol took a look at the document and essentially found it to be sound, particularly in respect of the issue of the appropriateness of local community support. That was seen to be a reflection of where the London plan policy is heading, in that local communities should decide on the appropriate scale of development in their own backyard. This DPD document is going to now be adopted by the Council on the 1st of November. So, from the 1st of November, you'll end up in a situation where the adopted planning policy, which is current and up to date, specifies particular heights in relation to the acceptable development on the station site. Both of the applications in front of the Council don't conform to that adopted policy. That's where we stand at the moment. 2 applications in, one is likely to go to committee. Officers are still have advised us at the moment that more information is to be provided by the applicants. But ultimately, as it stands, in terms of scale and height and bulk, in my personal view, both of the schemes are currently contrary to policy, and in accordance with the law as we outlined earlier, unless material considerations can indicate otherwise, they should be recommended for refusal. Now, the applicants are then left in the position of relying on the specifics of material considerations, They've been discussed at great length amongst TRAG members, they've been discussed at great length amongst council officers, no doubt. And the key tenets of it are expediency and whether it's appropriate to bring forward a scheme just so that it can be completed in time for the Rugby World Cup in 2015. I'm sure that's an argument we have an awful lot to say about. Viability, which is the question of pound notes versus the townscape character of Twickenham. And design quality. If you can come up with something of exceptional design quality, then it has a potential to be supported as a material consideration.
We're still asking about the loop.
Well, that's a timely point for me to finish, to be honest, because that's the point at which we've arrived. It's anticipated that the second application